Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be comparing DSLR or mirrorless to point and shoot to smartphones for photography and videography. The reason why we're comparing this is smartphones have become so good over the past few years and it seems like they're beginning to compete with DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. Also in the past couple of years, some point and shoot cameras have been released that give you so much bang for your buck and give you so much quality in a compact size camera. So as a beginner photographer or videographer, we're going to be going through the pros and cons of each and I'm going to be giving you some recommendations at the end of the video. Starting with DSLR. DSLR simply means digital single lens reflex, and the reason why they are called DSLRs is because inside the camera there is a mirror. When light passes through the lens which you put in front of your camera, it hits the mirror at an angle of 45 degrees and hits another mirror, and then you get an image which you see in your optical viewfinder. It's called an optical viewfinder because it uses optics, which you know, glass. Most DSLRs are big and bulky because they have to accommodate these mirrors. Some very popular DSLRs are like the Canon 1DX series, the Canon 5DX series, the Nikon D750, the Nikon D800 series, and so much more. And mirrorless cameras, on the other hand, like the name suggests, are without the mirror. So when light passes through the lens, it goes straight onto the sensor. In times past, the source of concern with mirrorless cameras is that the sensor is exposed because there's no mirror covering it. But with cameras like the Canon EOS R that closes the shutter whenever the camera is switched off, that problem has been solved. Another issue that has faced mirrorless cameras in times past is the issue of cost. But with high-end DSLR cameras released recently, like the Canon 1DX Mark III, the price difference isn't so much. But the biggest advantage that mirrorless cameras have is that they are lightweight, and this is because they don't have to accommodate those mirrors as seen in the DSLR. All in all, the image quality in DSLRs and mirrorless cameras are comparable, so your choice of going with a DSLR or with a mirrorless camera is totally up to you. Also, the advantage of DSLRs or mirrorless cameras is the fact that you can change the lenses on them, and this is a big plus when you're trying to become a professional either in photography or videography. Not being stuck to a specific focal length or aperture gives you so much room for creativity and flexibility. Also, all DSLRs and mirrorless cameras offer you manual settings to capture both photo and video, so you can dial down your settings exactly the way you want it to get your desired result. The biggest con that mirrorless cameras and DSLRs have is the high cost. To get the high-end DSLR or mirrorless cameras, you are going to spend a lot of money, and even if you decide to get a used or refurbished one, you are going to be spending so much money as compared to point and shoot or smartphones. Also, the moment you get a mirrorless camera or DSLR, other factors begin to come in. You have to start spending on the lenses and you have to learn how to operate these cameras. Now, to point and shoot, simply put, it's like a DSLR but with a fixed lens. They are primarily designed for you to pick from your pocket and just shoot, hence the name point and shoot. Recently, some very high-end point and shoot have come out from Canon like the G7X Mark III and even Sony like the RX100 Mark VII. Modern point and shoot cameras give you manual settings, so you can now dial in your settings to get your desired result in photography or videography. Compared to a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, a point and shoot is way cheaper. For example, the Canon G7X Mark III or the Sony RX1000 Mark VII both go for about $1,000, and with that you get the body and the lens combined. It is very easy to use. Most people getting point and shoot cameras are mostly enthusiasts in photography or videography world, and these point and shoot cameras come with a very wide range of focal lengths, so you have about 4 or 5 lenses in a single point and shoot lens. So not having to bother about what focal length will be needed and carrying multiple lenses is a big plus. Also, in most cases, the quality of images and videos you are going to get from a modern point and shoot camera will be better than what you get on a smartphone due to the bigger sensor sizes in these point and shoot cameras. And another pro of the point and shoot camera is that it's lightweight. You can easily throw it in your pocket or in your bag and bring it out whenever it is needed and you get your shot. Now, the cons of a point and shoot camera: number one, the lenses are not detachable. Though it's an advantage, it's also a disadvantage because as a professional you want more flexibility in your focal length. The image quality and quality of footage you are going to get from a point and shoot camera will not be as good when compared to a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. This again is because the sensor in the point and shoot camera is not as big as that of a mirrorless camera or a DSLR, and because the manufacturers try to keep these point and shoot cameras so lightweight, the battery life of most point and shoot cameras are not as good as what you get on a DSLR or a mirrorless camera or even a smartphone in some cases. And moving on to smartphones. Smartphones have become so good in the past year. Now to the pros of using a smartphone, it is always with you. As the saying goes, the best camera is the one in your pocket. The fact that it's so convenient, easy to use, and always with you is a big advantage. Number two, many recent smartphones now come with cameras with a variety of focal lengths. You can have ultra wide and even telephoto right on the smartphone. Number three, it is easy to use. You don't need any special training to use the camera on your smartphone. You can just bring it from your pocket and take your picture, and the smartphone itself processes the image and gives you a pleasing result right away. And if you feel the automatic settings are not good enough, there is always the availability of manual mode on most of these smartphones. With the ability of smartphones to now shoot raw images and ability to shoot flat videos with third-party apps like Filmic Pro, smartphones can now shoot excellent photos and videos that are more than enough for social media, travel content, family gatherings, and personal use. The sensors in these smartphone cameras, although not as big as the point and shoot and DSLR cameras, have become very good, and the computational photography built into these smartphones give you so much quality in your images and videos. And finally, the biggest advantage of using a smartphone is the host of apps you have for editing and sharing. You can take your pictures on your phone, edit in Lightroom Mobile for example, and you are straight away ready to publish on Instagram or Facebook. Now to the con. The sensor size once again. Because it is not as big as what you find in point and shoot or DSLR cameras, the image quality is not as good as what you get on those cameras, and dynamic range is also not as good. Number two, it is not a professional option. I doubt you are going to want to hire a photographer or a videographer who is going to come to your wedding and shoot the entire event on their smartphones. Also, the cost. The cost of high-end smartphones can begin to creep into beginner DSLR or even high-end point-and-shoot cameras. With all of that said, here are my recommendations. If you're just starting out with photography or videography and you're not sure you want to go professional and you're doing it just as an hobby to test the waters, then I would suggest you get a high-end smartphone. Even if you decide to stop photography or videography in the future, your smartphone is always going to be useful to you. But if you have decided that you want to do photography or videography seriously, but not as a professional, and you have considered what your smartphones can give you and you want a little bit more, then I would suggest you get point-and-shoot cameras. Point-and-shoot cameras pack up so light and so small, you get better optics, you get a bigger sensor, and you get more flexibility in your photos and videos. But if you are at the other end of the spectrum and you are ready to go all in on photography and videography, then I would definitely suggest you get a DSLR or a mirrorless camera depending on your budget and your preference. This will help you to grow in your photography or videography because now you can dial in your manual settings, you can have a variety of lenses to work with, so you can work with different focal lengths and different apertures and see how they work, and you can take your photography or videography to the next level. I hope this has been able to give you some clarity as to what to choose. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video.